In the third year of becoming Jiang Mingchen's fiancé, I led the company to exceed 10 billion in market value. Jiang Mingchen's girlfriend slapped me with a big belly. The company is listed and you should get out of here. I can only be the boss of the company. I directly slapped him back and kicked Jiang Mingchen, who came to persuade him, to the ground. If your father hadn't taken half of the company's shares to keep me, I would have kicked you long ago. Isn't it infertility? Why are there so many descendants? 1. Su Miao, what nonsense are you talking about? Jiang Mingchen, who was kicked to the ground, got up in embarrassment and looked at me with a gloomy face. Oh yes, he didn't know yet. His good father transferred half of the company's shares to me. Now I am also a shareholder of this company. Can't you understand human speech? I looked at him with a sneer. If you have any questions, come to your father. His face suddenly turned black, and he was surprised and doubtful that he didn't say anything else. But the woman on the other side couldn't stand it and began to say, I'm pregnant with Aiken's child. I can only be the boss's wife. You're just a fiancé. Who is qualified to take the company's shares? If you know the fun, return the shares quickly. You still know that he is his fiancé, so you are quite self-aware of being a junior. Besso, can't you understand human speech? This share is mine. I deserve it. 3 years ago, Jiang Mingchen and I met in a restaurant. At that time, I had just graduated from college. Because I knew that I was worth so much money, the entry conditions should have been higher. Many companies think that I am exaggerating my ability, so I didn't want to agree, so I just worked as a waiter in the restaurant to earn some pocket money and wait for the offer. By the way, he was about to start a business at this time and we were about to beat it. But he is not a suitable person for business. It can be said that the company is simply supported by me alone. I am very famous, and many companies are staring at me and want me to change jobs. Jiang Mingchen's father is afraid that I will give up his son, so he wants us to get married as soon as possible. But Jiang Mingchen refused on the grounds that the company had not been listed. So his father gave me half of the shares in one go, and wanted me to continue to work hard for the company. There is no reason not to accept the things delivered to your door. I gladly accepted and tried harder to bring the company up. Su Miao, why are you so cheap? I'm pregnant, and you're still licking your face and occupying Aiken. If it were me, I would hand over the shares obediently and stay away. Mo Jingyao's voice became sharper, and she looked at me indignantly. So you still know what cheap is? You know that you have a fiancé and still lick your body and lean on it. You want to learn from feudal scum. And the mother values the child. I said dashingly, and I felt more and more funny when I saw that Mo Jingyao's face gradually turned pale. That's all. In front of me, I think she can't recognize herself. You. Mo Jingyao pointed at my hand and trembled. Maybe she had been pregnant for a long time, and her stomach was moving. Aiken, my stomach hurts so much. Mo Jingyao hugged her stomach and screamed, and her face turned pale. I put my hands on my chest and smiled as Jiang Mingchen hurriedly helped Mo Jingyao out of the office. 2. Sister Su, why is this person like this? Is it reasonable to be a junior these days? Mo Jingyao entered the company with her stomach, and Jiang Mingchen helped her out. The scenes were seen by other employees in the company. The assistant beside me fought for me. People are shameless and invincible in the world. I shrugged my shoulders indifferently, returned to my exclusive office, and continued to work. But I don't care. In the eyes of some people, it has become jealousy. Su Miao, even if I'm sorry to you, you can't make Yao Yao so angry. She was angry and the child was almost lost. Halfway through his busy work, Jiang Mingchen's phone suddenly came. Is that so? It's such an inaginate. I said indifferently. The tone was even a little gloating. A word or two can make her so angry. She is really fragile. Because of my attitude, Jiang Mingchen was completely angered and said harshly to me, Su Miao, you will only make me hate you more, and the company will no longer have your place. Listening to his words, I smiled. For so many years I have been watching him come over, and I can clearly see how many women are around him. It's not enough to guard a rotten cucumber and feel sorry for yourself here. What's more, you won't feel threatened by a sentence or two of rotten cucumbers. What are you laughing at? Su Miao, you should be sensible. Don't rush everything forward like this. Which man likes a woman like you? If you are willing to give me the shares and stay at home to take care of the family, I can promise you to let Yao Yao give birth to the child, and the person who will marry me will still be you. I didn't expect to hear such disgusting words one day. Who on earth gave him confidence? Why do you think I love him so much? You don't have to. You'd better leave your love to Mo Jingyao. I only like money now. I rolled my eyes and complained and quickly hung up the phone, for fear that he would say more disgusting things again. Jiang Mingchen looked at the hung-up phone. His eyes flashed with anger, and he returned to the ward angrily. Aiken, hurry up and tell Su Miao this bitch to get out of here. When Mo Jingyao saw Jiang Mingchen coming in, she quickly hugged his arm and spoiled him. Jiang Mingchen's unhappy face suddenly softened and he said gently, I know, when I go back to my father and ask her to spit out the shares and get out. When Mo Jingyao was promised, her mood suddenly improved and she was more attached to Jiang Mingchen. 3. From today on, all the affairs in the company will be left to me. Jiang Mingchen returned to the company to hold an emergency meeting and announced that he would deprive me of all my rights in the company. What do you mean? For me? Half of the company is mine and wants to deprive me of my rights. Do you also see if you have this ability? Of course, he didn't invite me to such an important meeting. Who makes me well-liked? Looking at his dog jumping over the wall in a hurry, I guess he went back to the old man to discuss, and there was no way to take the shares from me. So just fake me and let me quit by myself. It's a joke. I've been in the company for so many years after graduating from college. How can a straw bag be empty? Jiang Mingchen watched me push open the door of the conference room and walk in. His face changed greatly, and his eyes glanced at the staff below. The others quickly lowered their heads for fear that the fire would spread to them. The surname of this company is Jiang, which is my Jiang family. Jiang Mingchen gritted his teeth and looked at me. I smiled and said, "Do you need me to show you the share certificate? Do you have to go to court to quit?" Jiang Mingchen suddenly became decadent. He was a fool, but he was not a fool. So many people outside are staring at me. If he fights this lawsuit with me today, not to mention that the company's shares will be affected, those customers who sign contracts with the company just by looking at my face can be contracted tomorrow. The other employees looked at each other and didn't understand how the two people who had been together for so long had become what they are now. 4. It is reasonable for me and Jiang Mingchen to be together. When I just graduated, I met a handsome and even handsome man. Of course, I would be moved. Naturally, they walked together. Now I think about it, I have more or less some love brains facing Jiang Mingchen's non-stop PUA. Instead, I think about what to do every day and help him list the company as soon as possible. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Mingchen looked at my thin body and apologized in a hoarse voice. Who is in love? It doesn't matter. At least the company has improved. After that, it was a logical engagement. His father proposed to let us get married as soon as possible. I felt very excited, but I didn't expect that he refused. The reason given to me is that I hope I can think about it again. He was found to be infertile. Later, the company gradually improved, and Jiang Mingchen began to not go home frequently. The reason given to me was a business trip. Once or twice, I will also check it for a long time. Everything he did outside was spread in front of me little by little. At that time, I was in pain. But after all, he can't withdraw so quickly, and he doesn't care about my change. With the boom of the company, I have more and more offers. Many famous companies want to dig me up, and even offer the condition of direct donation of shares. The headhunter found me that day, and our conversation was heard by Jiang Mingchen. We had a fierce quarrel. Jiang Mingchen, I didn't promise them. You don't have to look at me. Looking at Jiang Mingchen throwing things furiously, I said indifferently, Su Miao, do you want to prove that you are better than me? Without you, the company would not have today. I've already said that you just need to be my assistant. Why do you go to receive customers without permission? Do you want them to know that I'm useless? Jiang Mingchen roared hysterically, and I was dumbfounded. It's obviously a simple thing. Why did he misinterpret it like this? From then on, I understood better that Jiang Mingchen was simply a machismo clown. 5. Since you don't have the courage to fight a lawsuit with me, then put away your little thoughts. Looking at his cowardly appearance, I sneered. After so many years, he has not made any progress. Jiang Mingchen really didn't dare to fight a lawsuit with me, because he knew that I would be the winner, and what's more, he would be humiliated. After all, who would have a lawsuit with his fiancé? All the affairs of the company are as usual. From today on, I am also your boss, not the vice president. I announced this matter loudly. Everyone's shares are equal, so why should I be the vice president? The boss is better. My assistant was the first to applaud me, and other employees also applauded one after another. Jiang Mingchen looked at this scene, and his face twisted. I obviously won this battle. After the meeting, the other employees returned to their posts. I was about to turn back to the office when I was stopped by Jiang Mingchen. Su Miao, what on earth do you want to hand over the shares? Jiang Mingchen frowned and looked at me. It's so funny. I got it by hard work. Why should I hand it over? I sneered and looked at him without warmth. Jiang Mingchen gritted his teeth and lowered his voice. Su Miao, without me at the beginning, you could only be a waiter. Don't be inch by inch. His words have completely renovated my 3 views over and over again. Please make it clear. If it weren't for me, your company would have gone bankrupt long ago. I said confidently. After all, his company couldn't work when he didn't meet me. Now that it is on the market, you have the courage to quarrel with me. Very good. If you don't want to toast, you will be punished. I want to see how long you can be stubborn. Jiang Mingchen couldn't argue with me, so he directly put down his harsh words and strode away. I raised the corners of my mouth and looked at his back disdainfully. After living with him for so many years, I know very well what ability he has. What? Did she really say that? Mo Jingyao, who was recuperating in the hospital, listened to Jiang Mingchen's words and her voice became sharp. How dare this bitch be arrogant if it's not her thing? When Mo Jingyao was with Jiang Mingchen, his money had attracted her. Now that the company is listed, it proves that there will be more money. Now she has the flesh and blood of the Jiang family. In the future, the company's property will belong to her son, so how can she let me take half of the shares? Yao Yao, don't worry. If I marry her, the shares will be mine. When you give birth to a child for me, I promise you will eat delicious food and drink spicy food for the rest of your life. Jiang Mingchen comforted Mo Jingyao and told him his plan. No. Mo Jingyao refused in one word. What she wanted was not only money, but also the identity of the boss of the company. Now that she has children, how can she continue to be a lover? 6. Meow meow. Let's go home for dinner with the Chun tonight. I was just about to get off work when I received a call from Jiang Mingchen's father. I pondered for a moment and agreed to go back. After all, there are some things that need to be made clear. Less people who don't want to do it come to trouble me every day. At night, I came to Jiang Mingchen's home. Since we were together, I have been here a lot. Uncle. I knocked on the door. Jiang Mingchen's father hurried over to open the door and greeted me into the door with a smile. I looked up and found that there was no Jiang Mingchen in the living room. His father won't just call me back. I guess Jiang Mingchen refused for his girlfriend to accompany him. Mingchen, he's on his way back. Wait a minute. His father probably saw my idea, brought me a glass of water, and pulled me to sit on the sofa. I took it politely and nodded, and sat down unnaturally. Meow meow, every man will make mistakes sometimes. At this time you should understand him more. Uncle, I promise you that you are the only daughter-in-law recognized by the Jiang family. Jiang Mingchen's father advised me solemnly, and even said that he would stand in line. I couldn't help laughing when I heard this. Understand him? Is he having a hard time? Dad. A low and angry voice sounded in the direction of the gate. I looked up and found that Jiang Mingchen was helping Mo Jingyao in. And Mo Jingyao's face turned pale, and she looked very haggard. I raised my legs and looked at the scene in front of me with interest. His father didn't expect that Jiang Mingchen heard these words, and he didn't even expect that he would bring Mo Jingyao back. Uncle, I'm pregnant. Is it difficult for you to let the blood of the Jiang family flow out? Mo Jingyao lowered her head, her voice choked, and gently stroked her belly. How is it possible? His father suddenly became anxious and completely forgot my existence. Oh, I couldn't help laughing out loud. Jiang Mingchen's father looked at me awkwardly. After all, not long after, he was still saying that I could only be the daughter-in-law of the Jiang family, and now she has changed her mind. It is also understandable that Jiang Mingchen started from nothing. His father's high level of thought naturally cannot be compared with the real rich family. Traditional parents still value their children's bloodline. Sumiao, why are you here? My family doesn't welcome you. Jiang Mingchen looked at me with disgust, and his voice was extremely cold. I'm really not rare to come here. After watching enough of the farce, I slowly stood up and turned to look at his father. Uncle, I think what I said is very clear that I deserve this share. And you, Jiang Mingchen, there is no connection between us. It's because you can't control your lower body that this love ended in nothing. It's not my fault. Don't try to jump in front of my eyes. I have a bad temper. I warned them one by one, and then walked around them to leave. 7. Sumiao, don't you feel ashamed when you hold the shares of the Jiang family? Why don't you believe that Jiang stays in the company? Mo Jingyao couldn't stand this breath, so she stood up directly and pointed at me with a righteous and dignified look. What am I ashamed of? If there is no me in this company, can he get up? The shares recognized by this legal contract are in my name. If you think I'm annoying, you can buy them back. I turned to look at them and gave them a perfect suggestion. How much do you want? As soon as Jiang Mingchen heard that he was sure to get back the shares, he immediately asked about the price. After all, I've worked so hard. It's not surprising that I've received more. I lowered my head and pretended to be contemplation. I looked up for a moment and smiled straight into my eyes. I want a price 10 times higher than the market price. You are taking advantage of the fire to rob. Jiang Mingchen's face suddenly became distorted. I shrugged my shoulders and said with a smile, since you don't want to pay this price, don't always think about kicking me out of the company. Mo Jingyao's fierce eyes stared at me, and the anger in her eyes was clear. Give it to her. Take back the shares first. After all, the company has been listed. Jiang Mingchen's father said in a low voice, his eyes full of helplessness. It's for you a little money, and we can earn more in the future. Take the shares back. The whole company is Jiang's family. I'm afraid that there will be no money in the future. So Mo Jingyao looked at me arrogantly, as if she had been better than me. Seeing that both of them agreed, Jiang Mingchen gritted his teeth and admitted it. They were afraid that I would repent, so they immediately called the company's lawyer. Pay with one hand and deliver with one hand. I watched the money arrive and immediately signed it. Sumiao, without the company, you are nothing. From now on, the boss will be me. Mo Jingyao quickly snatched the contract and scanned to confirm that I had indeed signed it, and her tone became more and more smug. I sneered and overflowed with compassion. Instead of fighting back, I left with a huge sum of money. After working hard for so long, In exchange for this huge sum of money, I have landed in the second half of my life. Su Miao, if you hadn't been so strong before, you could rely on me like Yao. Be softer, and we wouldn't have come to this point. Jiang Mingchen looked at my back and suddenly said this sentence. My pace paused for a moment, and then I reacted and continued to walk forward disdainfully. I understand that all this is the work of Jiang Mingchen's self-esteem. He can't see that I have done such a good performance even better than him. His macho couldn't stand it, so he was gradually attracted by Imogen Yao's coquettishness. After selling the shares, it is naturally impossible for me to stay in the company. Sister Su, why are you selling your shares? The little assistant complained in a low voice. I explained while packing up. If I have to watch them vomit in front of me all day long every day, how can I work? After all, I changed the money. I'm satisfied. Be careful by yourself. After saying goodbye to my close colleague, I left casually. As soon as I walked out of the company, I received a strange call. Miss Su, I heard that you have resigned. Do you hope to work in your company? That I remember this voice. It was Shun Zicho, the president of Shun's company. There was a little friction before. At the beginning, I snatched the 2 projects that Shun sure liked by myself. As a result, Shun had a financial problem for a period of time, but unexpectedly, the president of Shun actually turned the tide and saved him. But the 2 families also formed a feud. 8. Shen Jichu made an appointment opposite the company. I put my things back in the car and packed everything before walking leisurely to the appointment. Speaking of which, Shen Jichu is the same age as Jiang Mingchen, but his ability is much better than him, and he is very decisive and never hesitates. Miss Su really met a white-eyed wolf. She paid so much, but she didn't expect such a result. Shun Jichu poured a glass of wine for me, and his tone was quite euphemistic. You know it very well. I was not polite to him. I sat down and took a sip. That's right, after all. Miss Su is the talent I've always wanted to explore. If such a thing happens, I can't wait to dig you up. Shun Jichao did not refute the matter of sending someone to investigate and follow me. I smiled and didn't make a sound. After all, Shenji and Chu once wanted me to change jobs with a double salary, but it was a pity that I was determined to stay in the Jiang company at that time. Are you so sure that I will go to your company? I whispered. After all, I have a huge amount of money in my hand, and I'm not worried about the money. Shun Jicho seemed to have known for a long time that I would say so and said confidently, Is it difficult for you to swallow this breath like this? Don't you want to see their miserable appearance? I can be sure that Shunji and Chu really understand my temper, and even said it in my heart. Happy cooperation. I stood up and stretched out a hand to him. Shunjicho smiled and responded to me. Happy cooperation, Vice President. I was shocked for a moment, but when I thought of something I laughed it off. I am naturally happy to have a job again. After all, who would dislike too much money? Shunjichu soon introduced me to all the employees of the company. I came to the exclusive office, glanced at the layout inside, and couldn't help sighing. This treatment is much better than Zhang's company. With such excellent treatment, I will work harder to repay the favor and make money. In 2 months I won 3 major customers and created Shun's unprecedented performance. After all, Shunji and Chu used to fight alone. Now, with the addition of me as a talent, Shun suddenly squeezed to the front row. Miss Su, shall we celebrate? After work, Shun Jichu came to my office and gently knocked on my desk to ask for my opinion. No problem. I nodded. In the past 2 months I have seen that it is so easy to have a great partner. In the past, Jiang Mingchen couldn't express his decent opinion at all, and even attached himself to me at will. He didn't have any opinion at all. When I came to a restaurant, Shin Jichu specially ordered a box and ordered a lot of my favorite flavors. That's right. Mr. Shin is so careful. Your girlfriend must be very happy. I looked at him and made fun of him casually. Single. Shin Jichu's answer shocked me for a second. After all, such an excellent man doesn't have a girlfriend. I smiled and lowered my head to continue to eat. Shin Jicho didn't say anything and talked about other topics. We had a dinner while chatting indifferently. Wait for me, I'll drive you back. After saying that, Shin Jichu walked towards the parking lot. I had to stay where I was and waited for him to come over. Su Miao, did you meet Shin Jichi? I heard a sound of rage and turned my head to look over. I saw Jiang Mingchen walking towards me viciously in a suit. I frowned, a trace of disgust flashed in my eyes, and my good mood dissipated in an instant. 9. Who am I with? What does it matter to you? I took a cold look at him. I don't allow it. Did you go to work for him? Shun has won so many customers recently. You did it all, right? Why do you want to help him? Do you know how many orders my company has missing? After listening to his words, my 3 views were shattered. So people say such stupid words. What does it have to do with me if your company doesn't have a list? I frowned at him and didn't want to argue with a brainless person like him at all. Meow meow, I made a mistake. Why don't I pay you? Come back and help me. Seeing that I was so bored, Jiang Mingchen relaxed a little and looked at me pleadingly. I sneered and rolled my eyes at him. Is there something wrong with you? You asked me to leave and now I'm catching up with you. I've never seen such a cheap person as you. Jiang Mingchen originally thought of a good attitude to persuade me to go back, but when he found that I couldn't get in, he directly lost his posture and said angrily, "Do you think Shenjichi likes your ability very much? He also took advantage of you. I have eyes and can see for myself. You don't have to worry about it." Looking at Shenjichu's car, I turned around and walked over. "Where did you come from? Go back." Jiang Mingchen reluctantly watched me get into Shenjichu's car, and a trace of resentment flashed in his eyes. "What is he looking for you for?" Shenjichu asked casually while driving. "I'm so stupid that you still want me to go back by licking my face." I held back the action of rolling my eyes and complained in a disdainful tone. Shenjichu was amused in an instant when he saw me like this. "Do you know that his company has lost a lot of customers?" "Of course I know this. These customers are the ones I pulled over. They all like my cooperation plan. Now I have resigned." According to Jiang Mingchen's mind, he can't do the result that the customer wants. So the contract was tenfold. And I knew this because I sold the shares so easily. It would be difficult for Jiang Mingchen's company to operate without me. I'm going to slap him in the face to make him realize that I'm the only one who has come to this point. It's not that he can succeed in a few words. Jiang Mingchen, who was angered by me, tried hard to snatch customers from me. When talking about the customer for the third time, Jiang Mingchen took another step, sat next to the customer, blindly confidently took out his contract and handed it to the customer. "Mr. Li, our company can also do your project. There is no need to cooperate with Shen, and their offer price is still high." Jiang Mingchen looked at me provocatively as he said. I looked at him without saying a word, but wanted to see what else he could say. Mr. Li glanced at me hesitantly, and then at the contract, and found that the quotation in it was indeed much lower than mine. An entrepreneur's favorite is the condition that makes himself the most profitable. "Mr. Li, think about it clearly. Only Shen can give you the best results for this project. After all, everyone knows Jiang's current situation." I smiled meaningfully and slowly opened my mouth to dissuade. Mr. Li's eyes turned and remembered the recent state of Jiang's. Although Shen's opening price was high, he was very powerful. "Excuse me, Mr. Jiang, I think Shen is more suitable for me." Mr. Li returned the contract to Jiang Mingchen and signed the contract with me. Mr. Li walked slowly. After sending Mr. Li away, I took care of Jiang Mingchen. "What? I have intervened 3 times, but I haven't robbed my customer once. Jiang Mingchen, you are not the material of a boss." 10. What Jiang Mingchen hates most is that others look down on him and even think he is not qualified. "Su Miao." He looked at me with resentment and gritted his teeth and said, "Don't be too proud. Sooner or later I will put you under my feet." I don't care about his harsh words at all. After all, if he had this ability, he would not have such a stupid way of robbing customers from me. After 2 months, Jiang Mingchen did not appear in front of me, and I was happy to win a lot of orders and a generous bonus. "Sister Sue, I have good news for you." The colleague next to me quietly pulled my arm, pulled me to the corner and said mysteriously, "What good news?" I lowered my voice with her and looked at her curiously. "Do you know? There is something wrong with Jiang. I heard that the product failed the inspection and was contracted by many customers. Now the capital chain seems to be broken. I told you as soon as I got the news." Hearing this, I burst into laughter, patted my colleague on the shoulder very gratefully, and then walked back to the office. It seems that Jiang Mingchen can't last long, and now he can add fuel to the fire. "Hey, is it Yao Yao's mother? I heard that Yao Yao is pregnant, and she is still the only son of the Jiang family, and her family is rich." Hearing the fierce voice on the phone, I hooked my lips and continued to exaggerate. "What's going on? Why doesn't Yao Yao take you to enjoy happiness alone? It's so unfilial." After making this call, I was overjoyed. After all, on the day Emojing Yao appeared with a big belly, I had already investigated her background. A man from a small mountain village was admitted to college. In the end, he was confused by the life of paper and gold, and he was completely determined to become a rich wife. Therefore, Jiang Mingchen, who was dressed in a black suit and looked like a high collar, was moved. Now it's time to surprise her. 2 days later, I saw the video sent by the little assistant before. Jiang was bustling, and a group of people in simple clothes surrounded Jiang Mingchen and Emojing Yao. Jiang Mingchen's face was black, while Emojing Yao's face was pale. "You unfilial girl. You didn't even inform us when you were pregnant. You were alone outside to enjoy happiness, thanks to our hard work to send you to college. Xiao Yao, we don't blame you, but you have to report to your family. You are the son-in-law, right? He is very handsome." After Emojing Yao's mother finished her, she raised the corners of her mouth and looked at Jiang Mingchen with a smile, and her tone was a little more unfacial. Jiang Mingchen nodded awkwardly. He didn't expect Emojing Yao's family to come to him at this time. "Look, my daughter is pregnant. When will you get the certificate? Besides, you are in charge of a company by yourself. Can you give your brothers a job?" Emojing Yao's mother made demands inch by inch. Jiang Mingchen's eyes darkened and he looked at Emojing Yao to signal her to deal with her family quickly. But Emojing Yao obviously didn't dare. She was used to being summoned since she was a child, and she didn't even dare to resist, and now it's the same. After Jiang Mingchen refused, Mo Jingyao's mother splashed like a tigress. Jiang Mingchen took a headache and took a look at their big people, and finally had no choice but to take them into the company. 11. I didn't expect that Jiang would fall so soon. Shen Zichou looked at the news and said smugly. I glanced at the headlines, and the smile reached the bottom of my eyes. Since Mo Jingyao's family joined the company, they are all out of business and can't even do simple work. Why do you know this? Naturally, it was the eyeliner notification I arranged to come in. Are you satisfied? Shen Zichou looked at my smile and raised his eyebrows to ask. This is not the way to go. I smiled meaningfully. How can a little price be satisfied with such hard work? I found out that Mo Jingyao was obsessed with gambling and even owed a lot of debt. But she was unable to repay, so she moved a lot of public funds, and Jiang Mingchen was working against me at the moment. Naturally, he didn't notice her small movements. What do you want to do? Mo Jingyao looked at me angrily, with a hint of vigilance in her tone. You don't have to worry. I think you better take a good look at these things. I held up the coffee without panic and gestured with my chin to the document bag in front of Mo Jingyao. Mo Jingyao squeezed her lips and slowly took it over. As soon as she saw what was inside, her face turned pale. How did you know? She asked me in a sharp voice. I shrugged my shoulders, leaned on the back of the chair, crossed my legs and smiled. I want to know the clues that these things are easy for me to get with a little money. What do you think? What if Jiang Mingchen knows? What will happen to you? I threatened her with a smile. I won't believe you. Aiken won't do anything to me in front of the child. Mo Jingyao said confidently, without a trace of panic at all. Your family has turned his company upside down, and now you owe usury, so don't you think he will be tired? I whispered the cruel truth. Mo Jingyao thought for a more, her face turned a little whiter, and a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. What do you want to do? Do you want to come back to him? Listening to her words, I sneered. I'm not rare. You just need to take the company's ledger to the tax bureau to report Jiang Mingchen. Impossible. I won't do this. Jiang Mingchen's company collapsed, and I have no more support. Mo Jingyao didn't expect me to open my mouth, so she immediately stood up and said firmly. I expected her reaction. After all, her whole family was supported by Jiang Mingchen. If you don't have money to pay usury, Jiang Mingchen will definitely not pay it back for you. The company has lost so much money day after day. Do you think he can't find out? At that time, you will be abandoned worthless. My words made Mo Jingyao calm down. She sat down and said stuttered. His company has gone bankrupt and I don't have any benefits. I helped you pay off the usury and give you another sum of money. I offered a perfect condition at a high price. After hearing this, Mo Jingyao's eyes lit up. Then you can return it for me now. Looking at her greedy appearance, I sneered. I'm not stupid. I'll give you a little money to pay back. After that, I'll give you the final payment. I sent her a sum of money very quickly. Mo Jingyao looked at the money in the account, and her heart was about to move. I'm looking forward to your good news. I got up and left, leaving her alone. 12. The next day, I hid in the crowd and watched the people from the tax bureau arrest Jiang Mingchen. Jiang Mingchen looked at the account book they were holding in their hands. His face turned black, and he glanced at the other employees viciously. Mr. Jiang, your girlfriend's real name reported that you violated the law. Please come with me. I secretly came to the law enforcement staff and asked them to help tell the whistleblowers information. Jiang Mingchen's face changed greatly. He turned his head to look at Mo Jingyao beside him and gritted his teeth. It's you. Why did you do this? He thought he treated her well and even took care of her whole family, but he was stabbed in the back by her. Mo Jingyao was frightened by his eyes and stepped back a few steps. When the law enforcement officer could not react, Jiang Mingchen rushed out and pulled Mo Jingyao's hair and beat him hard. It's all you, damn it. Why did I look at you blindly, which distracted Su Miao and me, and even left the company? I'm so good to you for beating you to death. Jiang Mingchen beat and cursed, completely losing his mind. The law enforcement officers hurried forward to stop him, only to see that he kicked Mo Jingyao in the stomach. Ah! Mo Jingyao fell to the ground in pain, covering her stomach and crying, and the blood slid down her thighs. Her family rushed over to see this scene and quickly called an ambulance. Jiang Mingchen was arrested on the charge of neglect and tax evasion. Jiang sure fell down after all. I took a look at Jiang Mingchen's back being escorted into the car, smiled, turned around and drove away. Not long after, I learned from Shen Jichu that Mo Jingyao lost excessive blood and was not rescued when she was rescued. 1 corpse and 2 lives. I was shocked for a moment and then calmed down. It's a pity. Saved me another amount of money. And Jiang Mingchen's father knew that he couldn't stand all this and fainted. However, all this has nothing to do with me. After getting a year-end bonus, I happily asked Shunji for a month's vacation and went on a trip with a huge amount of money. After all, after working for so long, you have to treat yourself well.